Good evening, I'm Pia Ranada, and this is In the Running, Rappler's daily run through of the highlights of today's filing of certificates of candidacy for the 2022 elections. This filing of COCs will run from today, October 1 to October 8, at the Sofitel Hotel in Pasay. And this show will also run every night until October 8 at 7 p.m. Joining us today as analysts will be Rappler Regional Head Inday Espina-Varona and Rappler reporters in the field Aika Ray and Mara Cepeda. We'll be calling on other reporters later on. So we now go to Aika Ray, who covers the first presidential aspirant to file his COC, the boxing icon Manny Pacquiao. Senator Pacquiao also revealed his running mate today. We'll find out more from Aika.
Hi,
So
Pia.
Aika, we know that Manny Pacquiao recently retired from boxing, and so now siya yung unang-unang nag-file ng COC niya. And the big surprise of the day is that Lito Atienza, a former Manila mayor and currently the House Deputy Speaker, is his running mate. So big surprise ito. What can you say about this development?
Yeah, exactly, no, Pia. Actually, surprised talaga siya. We thought initially that si House Deputy Speaker Lito Atienza, parang political advisor siya. And then we learned that siya pala actually yung running mate. And one of the things why, kasi parang the talks with One Sambayan was actually going on until the very last minute. So on Wednesday, Senator Manny Pacquiao and Vice President Leni Robredo actually met. So we thought at the time that depending on the negotiations, dun palang malalaman kung sino yung magiging running mate ni Senator Pacquiao. So we heard that actually itong talks between Atienza and Senator Pacquiao, matagal na daw siyang nangyayari, but kagabi lang siya na finalize. So as in last minute before filing ng candidacy nila kaninang umaga ng 9 a.m. Pia.
Mm-hmm. And meron kayong connection ito dun sa fact that another presidential candidate, rival of Pacquiao's for the presidency, is Isko Moreno, who is Manila mayor. And in fact, when Atienza was mayor of Manila, councilor pa lang nun si Isko. So parang meron bang ano doon, parang some sort of link? Kasi we also know that si Lito Atienza, up to the very end, was trying to persuade Isko Moreno and Manny Pacquiao to become a tandem. So that's why in a way, even more interesting yung development na to. So meron bang link doon, you think? Ay, na parang pambato nila in a way to counter Isko Moreno in Manila?
Oh, that's true kasi vote rich din yung Manila eh. So isang rin yung isang one way din yun to check no kung ano ba talaga yung magiging strategy din nila pagdating sa 2022.
So we're now bringing in Inday Varona, a veteran journalist who's covered politics for a long time. And looking at these two politicians, Manny Pacquiao and Lito Atienza, they obviously have histories behind them, political stances that they've taken. And isa ring surprising reality sa tandem na to is, for one thing, Lito Atienza was very much anti-death penalty, whereas yung kanyang standard bearer, si Manny Pacquiao, is pro-death penalty. But do we know more about their stances? And Inday, what do you have to say about the positions they took in the past in terms of previous issues?
Well, the death penalty is probably the biggest factor that divides them. But in all other things, they're both very socially conservative men. They were both against the anti-discrimination bill. They were both against the anti-reproductive bill, which and Manny surprised a lot because by that time he had already left the Catholic Church. We know, of course, the Catholic Church is against the reproductive health measure, but he still voted no for it. So there's two very big issues where they actually gel together. And there's also the personal ties between the two men. I think at the time when Manny was mentally and emotionally a little bit unsure of himself. It was Lito Atienza, he has said this, who actually stabilized him, who he said weaned him from gambling. So I guess that's a very deep tie there. But in terms of demographics, it only geography makes sense. In terms of age, I don't know, because I don't think both would really fly with the younger generation.
Yeah, I mean, and let's also not forget, like, for the progressives or for the liberal minded among us, that see Manny Pacquiao once said that couples who are in same sex marriages or unions are worse than animals. So, like, we always have to remember that he took that stance. He apologized, but diba, he was widely criticized for that remark. So,
Both of them are very, have very tough stances on the LGBT community.
yes, so we will be closely watching this tandem, and if they will change their stances on certain things, we will certainly be watching. Ikarie will certainly be monitoring that situation. So thank you, Ika, for those insights. We're now going to call on Mara Cepeda, who covers the Senate. Mara, we saw Risa Ontiveros, Lauren Legarda, and Cheese Escudero file today. These
Mhm.
are very well-known names who've occupied the Senate seats in the past. What can you tell us about this development?
No, we're not really surprised that they are among the first people to file. We based on the running list ng Rappler, 14 yung senatorial hopefuls na nag-file na kanilang candidacy today. And syempre, isa sila sa mga standout dahil like you said, sila na nga yung mga kilala. Now, very interesting also because, Lauren Legarda and Cheese Escudero are officially ang party nila ay Nationalist People's Coalition, which is the party of Senate President Vicente Soto III, who we know has already declared his candidacy for the vice presidency. Samantalang si Senator Risa Hontiveros naman is clearly, opposition. She is running under Akbayan Party, yung party list group din na kanyang nirepresent sa House of Representatives before she finally got a Senate seat in 2016. So, in terms of, taking sides on specific issues, iba-iba yung magiging position nila. But all three have better chances in winning one of the 12 seats compared to the other people who filed today. Siya pinangunguna na dyan si Escudero. Siya ay wala siya sa Kamara ngayon. He is actually, 'di ba, Sorsogon governor siya. But of the three of them, siya ang pinaka may chance talaga na makakuha ng mataas na ranking. In the latest Pulse Asia survey, he got 47.9%. So nasa 3 to 4 ranking siya. Virtually pareho sila ni Deputy Speaker Lauren Legarda who has 47.2%. Pero syempre kasi pagkalabanan ng mga senador, parang may bragging rights din yan ng onte pagka mas mataas ka dun sa listahan. And it's not surprising also kasi, Escudero has, been giving his opinions on certain issues on social media. And syempre, very, very strategic na rin na asawa niya si Heart Evangelista who, is a celebrity, has always been, has her own fan base. And pagka may mga vlog siya, nafi-feature din si Governor Escudero. So, nakatulong yon para ma-remind ng tao na outside of Sorsogon that there is still a Cheese Escudero could be running for the Senate. Now, former Senator Lauren Legarda naman, who is a congresswoman, is faring well also. And she's always been, I covered the House of Representatives when she became congresswoman, and yung kanyang mga pinaglalaban sa Kamara is really climate change and culture. So those are issues that, she's always been pushing for even in the Senate. And we're expecting her to do the same thing. Now, si Hontiveros yung medyo kakabahan ng onte in terms of her chances in the senatorial race because she's in the 13 to 21 ranking. So kung titignan niyo yung Pulse Asia survey, yung pangalan niya below the red line. So parang I think she's in the 17th place in terms of the number of the names. 25.1% lang yung kanyang ranking. But, yung sa Pulse Asia survey na yun, may 4 na pangalan doon na tatakbo for president, 'di ba? We have Manila Mayor Isko Moreno, Senator Manny Pacquiao, Senator Lacson, and 3 lang pala, sorry. So, 'di ba, may chances mas uurong kapag hindi tumuloy for a senatorial race yung 3 na yon.
So Inday, we've seen nga si Senator Risa is the first opposition candidate to file her senatorial bid. And alam naman natin noong 2019, ni isang opposition candidate for Senate ay nanalo in that elections. Do you think that they have better chances this time around?
Well, it remains the same. Yun pa rin ang problema eh. Will the opposition unite? You know, as of now, malaking problema pa rin yan. Until they do, it's going to be a hard, tough climb for Risa.
Mhm.
Okay, so
And you know,
thank you so much. Oh yes, Mara, may sasabihin ka pa?
no, I'm also gonna say kasi Risa is also a guest candidate of the Liberal Party. Tinanggap niya na yon. So of course, polarizing din to be associated with the Liberal Party. So we'll see if that would help her attract votes kasi kung hindi mag-unite ang opposition, lalong mas mahihirapan si Risa to gain the necessary votes.
Right. Thank you, Mara, for those insights. Now we're going to call on Jairo Boledo, who covers the local races. Jairo, the very young mayor of Pasig, Vico Soto, filed his candidacy today, flanked by his celebrity parents. Anong pwedeng makwento mo yung nangyari kanina sa Pasig City?
Alright. So kanina contrary doon sa area sa Sofitel area where we also covered, hindi gano'n karaming supporters because the policemen or the police officers, were manning the area. So surprisingly wala siyang supporters na nasa area. And then nauna yung tatay niya na dumating, naunang dumating si Vic Soto, Itbulaga host para suportahan yung anak niya. And then after a few minutes, after around 5 to 10 minutes, dumating na rin si Vico Soto. So si Vico dumating siya along with her mother, Connie Reyes, at dire-diretso siyang nag-file doon sa First District ng COMELEC office sa Pasig City COMELEC office. And then afterwards, after around 15 to 20 minutes, lumabas na rin siya and nagpa-unlock siya ng interview. Tinanong namin siya kung anong kasi this is the first time that he's running with a running mate. So meron siyang vice mayor this time, hindi katulad nung 2019. So napili niyang running mate si Robert Dodot Jaworski Jr. So medyo tinanong namin siya kasi last time wala siyang running mate. So sabi niya, pinili niya raw yung mga taong gusto niyang makasama para sa pag-fulfill ng reforms niya doon sa Pasig City. So far yun yung nakita natin sa area ng Pasig City sa filing ni Vico Soto.
Mm-hmm. So si Vico Soto, no, everyone, especially the young Filipinos, are looking to him as possibly maybe running for a national post in the years to come. And definitely yung kanyang Pasig mayoral bid and yung kanyang terms as Pasig mayor will definitely determine if that will happen. Inday, what can you say about Vico Soto again seeking re-election? Does this say anything about his future plans?
Mukha naman ang lakas ni Vico sa social media. And you can see people really appreciating him. Pero curious ako, ano raw sabi niya? Ano yung nakikita niya kay Dodot that thinks that he can help him fulfill the vision?
Alright. Same question, Ma'am Inday, kasi talagang tinanong din namin nung nagpa-unlock siya ng interview. So ang sagot niya lang ay pinili niya yung slate or yung hindi niya binanggit kung sino yung mga councilor under his ticket. And then sabi niya lang under former Congressman Dodot Jaworski, isa raw kasi siya sa mga taong nakikita niya na makakatulong sa pag-fulfill niya ng project sa Pasig City kasi as per him, naka-laid out na yung kanilang reforms, which is makikita naman natin sa kanilang responses on certain situations, but medyo vague yung sagot niya in fact kung bakit si former Congressman Dodot na alam naman natin na medyo into traditional politics din dun sa Pasig City, and Vico Soto is known for despising traditional politics in his city. So medyo vague din po yung sagot niya.
Sige, salamat.
Relative.
Sige, ma'am.
Parang relative lang siguro. Like, si Dodot, like, sure, he's traditional politics because that's the way he entered. Pero siguro wala namang malaking scandal. So maybe Vico is like, nagbabalance rin eh. Kailangan somebody who can work the traditional political world with him and isn't that trapo naman talaga.
If I could just add, Ma'am Inday and Pia, nabanggit din tinanong din natin si Dodoy kung ano yung plano niyang gawin. And sabi niya naman as Vice Mayor eventually or kung mananalo siyang Vice Mayor ni Vico Soto, makakatulong naman daw siya sa bilang presider nung City Council ay makakatulong siya sa pagpasa ng mga local ordinances na gustong ipasa ni Mayor Vico Soto kasi itong under 2019 to 2022 term ni Vico, hindi niya kasi katiket yung kanyang vice mayor. And in fact, base dun sa nasagap nating information on ground, ay napapabalita na iyon yung mga kalaban niya sa pagka-mayor ng Pasig City. So, in basically yung sinabi ni Dodot na gagawin niya. At tutulungan niya daw si Vico.
Interesting. Thank you, Jair, sa insights na yun. Actually, marami pang very interesting local races na na-monitor natin today. For example, in Ilocos Sur, all the way in the north, we have seen the Singsons running against each other. Yung kingpin doon, si Chavit Singson, is in fact running for vice governor against his own son. So interesting development, and many other family members are seeking various posts in Ilocos. Then in Pampanga, we saw the Lazatins also. And for example, Cavite, si John Vic Remulla is seeking re-election. He's teaming up with Athena Tolentino, who we of course know related kay Francis Tolentino, another powerful figure in Cavite politics. Diba mayor siya ng Tagaytay before. In Makati, Abby Binay is seeking a third term as Makati mayor. So again, prolonging the power of or the hold of the Binays over Makati. And maybe not related to COC filing, but in a related event, na political event then, Toto Magundadatu has joined Isko Moreno's party, Action Democratico. So, Inday, you are our editor for regional affairs and you have been monitoring these developments. Ano masasabi mo about these local races? Why are they important? Why are they interesting?
Mahalaga talaga yan because we know that political dynasties will play a very strong role in the elections of national officials. No? Panahon pa yan no? The Ampatuans before and everybody. So mahalagang-mahalaga yan sila. Very interesting ang Magundadato because remember si Barm head, Murad, actually endorsed him. So that's a significant play there. Ang mga datato also pareho sa mga Singson, no? Ang dami-dami nila nasa politika, they're not always friendly towards each other. Dalasating sa Pampangas are ganun din, no? So ito yung mga sinasabing dalawang klaseng political dynasties natin that we have, those smaller dynasties na magpapalitan-palitan lang. Okay, pag term na ako, ikaw naman. And then these fat ones were like pag binilang mo yung mga Singson ngayon, 8. In 2016, they were 10. Yung mga ganun tipo, ganun kadami yung kanilang mga miyembro running at the same time.
Mm-hmm. So interesting because obviously mga alliances din to, like shifting alliances, like the Mangudadatus, or at least Toto and his brother, si Dong Mangudadatu, were in fact allies with the president. Duterte even endorsed the candidacy of Dong Mangudadatu for senator. And then si Toto was a PDP Laban member, pero now nagpalit na siyang alliance to Isko Moreno's party. So you can also really see in the local races, right, where the national political realignments are also taking place. Kasi in a way, the local is national. I mean, you can't really separate the two, especially when it comes to political parties and the fact that local officials deliver votes for national candidates. So interesting.
And it happens after every election.
Yeah. Interesting. Re-election and even naman na Magudadatos are bitterly divided, right? Hindi naman lahat sila under one alliance. Like they have their own agendas also, which I think is also something indicative of maybe weaknesses in political dynasties. So thank you, Jairo, for joining us, sharing those insights about the Pasig mayoral race. Now we will talk to our reporter on the ground in Sofitel. Impressions on today's filing. Dwight, what was the first COC filing under the pandemic like?
Well, definitely it's different from past COC filing activities dahil ngayon dahil nga may pandemic, syempre kailangang i-observe strictly yung COVID-19 protocols. Parang noong nakaraang election or noong nakaraang mga COC filing, syempre it's a festive activity, may mga supporters, parang it's a lively event. Ngayon, it's much more solemn dahil ayun nga, kakaunti lang yung inallow na tao sa loob ng Sofitel tent sa Pasay. I think it's important to take note that in past elections or COC filings, ang venue ay sa COMELEC office in Intramuros, but now they had to move to a bigger venue, and that's Sofitel tent nga, which could accommodate 2,000 people pre-pandemic. Pero dahil nga may pandemic, siguro yung tansya ko kanina nasa around 200 to 300 people lang maximum yung tao na nandun sa loob. So, of course, with that capacity, it's much easier to comply to COVID-19 protocols. And at the same time, yung mga tao doon, kailangan mag-present ng negative COVID-19 test results. So actually, yung joke nga sa aming mga reporters is parang mapapagod yung ilong namin kasi araw-araw kaming isa-swab if i-cover namin siya for 8 straight days. Again, it's also important to mention na may tinatawag din silang COVID-19 marshals. So these are persons na talagang sinisita yung mga taong hindi siguro kung tinataas yung face shield, kailangan isuot mo ng maayos yung face shield mo. Kapag may mga cameramen or reporters na nagkukumpol-kumpol, they will call you out. And siguro may threat din na palalabasin kung hindi magpa-follow ng COVID-19 protocols. Pero for now, according to COMELEC spokesman James Jimenez, so far, maayos naman daw ang pagsunod ng COVID-19 protocols, at least dito sa Sofitel.
So by and large, wala ka naman nakitang candidate na nag-violate ng protocols na yun?
Wala naman, pero nakalagay kasi sa COMELEC resolution na, for example, face mask and face shield should be worn at all times. Pero syempre, there are some exceptions. Like for example, if kukuha ka ng picture ng kandidato, they were allowed to remove their face shield briefly. I don't remember if they were allowed to remove their mask at some point. Pero I guess kahit yung mga kandidato, medyo rin sila, careful na rin sila because of course if they do, they might be subjected then to criticism.
Inday, do you think because usually you see COC filing, medyo para siyang fiesta, it's kind of like a parang a prelude or some sort of loud intro to the campaign of a person kasi usually may mga supporters yan outside with flyers, may mga microphones and may rallies outside COMELEC. This time obviously muted ito. Do you think that this is a lost opportunity for candidates and how do you think they're making up for this change in the usual way COC filing is done?
I think they're going to be concentrating now on the campaigns Kasi obviously wala silang magagawa sa filing. Kahit sa mga provinces kanina, very, very muted yung atmosphere. They would go in, they would say a few things, they would go out, no? Napaka-orderly naman, no? Ganon. Doon sila maglalabanan sa kung anong maibibigay nila. Iikot yan sila, lalo na sa panahon ng COVID, mamumudbud yan sila ng mga tulong, no? Yung kung ano yung mga health services, etc., all the way up to the election campaigns. Kaya ang mga dynasties na nasa poder na, 70% kasi ng kongreso natin, ito yung mga taong may mga pera na discretionary na pwede gamitin sa campaign, puro yan dynasties. So titingnan natin, I think, Pia, what we should be looking in the next, certainly in the next month, yung takbo ng voter registration. Pag lumaki yung kabataan, pag lumaki yung new voters, yung numbers of new voters, yun medyo magkakaroon siguro ng magandang laban. No? So lalo na sa mga local positions kung saan yung mga bata siguro would like a change. But we'll see about that.
Yeah, lalo na ngayon na most likely this pandemic will also lead to a shift to online campaigning and the youth being registered to vote, a lot of them are going to look at that platform as well. So, pero even if may malaking change this year dun sa COC filing, some things never change. And kanina, Dwight, nakita natin, marami pa rin mga candidates who maybe they're not the usual candidates we think in our heads are as candidates because they're not politicians. Maybe they're kind of unconventional candidates. But every year, nakita natin to mga names na unusual, mga tao na not known, but still have kind of really noble intentions and really just want to exercise their right to run for president or any national position. Dwight, can you give us a run-through of the interesting candidates you saw earlier today?
Yes, there are definitely interesting characters filing of COCs today. And well, it's a really a common sight pagdating sa filing of COCs. And siguro at some point you would also have to siguro applaud them kasi it takes courage then to be that brave and to siguro to believe that you're capable of serving government and believe that you have a fighting chance. I think syempre may mga ilang kandidato na ilang mga aspirants, I mean, they were saying things na you would maybe think na, is this even doable? Of course, there are some interesting characters na parang, I think may candidate kanina parang he says that he's going to be a pandemic warfare mitigator. Then there's a candidate that says na parang he would offered pseudoscience alternatives to the COVID-19 fight. So it's very interesting, but at the same time, it also gives you an idea how much the pandemic really affected all of us, given that it's already an important conversation dito sa filing of COCs, and not just para sa mga popular candidates, but also for the lesser known ones. And even dun sa mga tao na siguro isipin natin, are they nuisance candidates? But just to be clear, at this point, wala pa tayong tinatawag na formally nuisance candidates, because this will be decided by the COMELEC later on. Of course, siguro meron lang tayong, alam yun, parang advanced notion of parang what a nuisance candidate is. But COMELEC has already said that we should give these people a fighting chance, because this is what this democracy is like. Na parang we're giving these people a chance to still serve the government if they want to. But of course, a nuisance candidate is someone who puts the election process in mockery. So this is something that will be determined by the COMELEC later on.
Mm-hmm. Talagang very obvious rin how the pandemic is moving some people to run. Like we saw earlier, a doctor who was running for presidency. I think Jose Montemayor, tama ba yung name niya?
Yes, Montemayor. Yes, and if you look at it, parang before the filing of COC, parang we didn't know this person, ganyan. Pero when you look at him online, parang he has a number of supporters then, and it really tells you that maybe medical credentials or your health credentials can really be a major factor in the 2022 elections. Kasi nga, if we've already noticed, for example, nga Mayor Isko chose a running mate that is a medical, someone who knows a lot about medicine. So it's really telling.
Thank you, Dwight, for those insights. This brings to a close the first episode of In the Running, which caps Rappler's special coverage of the COC filing of candidacy for the 2022 elections. We'd like to thank our resident analyst, Inday Espina-Varona, and our reporters on the field like Dwight De Leon here. Thanks for watching. Join us again tomorrow. Send in your questions and comments, and we will try to get to them tomorrow.